Welcome to the Forge Your Future podcast, brought to you by East Central Educational Service Center, located in Newcastle, Indiana. We proudly provide service support and collaboration to 14 counties and 39 member districts.
At ECESC, we believe that students' strengths and interests are a blueprint to forging a future of success and impact, and we are on a journey to provide support and collaboration to schools as they implement career-connected learning for all students.
As part of this mission, we are here today to celebrate the amazing educators who help the students of East Central Indiana dream big dreams and achieve more than they thought possible.
Their work inspires us each day, and we want to lift up their stories and the stories of the students they are impacting and serving.
So I guess it's welcome to the UC Experience Forge Your Future podcast, coming together to celebrate the holidays and the awesome things happening in East Central Indiana. Let's start off with some introductions. Randolph Eastern team, can you take it away first?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Shelley Wambo, and I am the co-host of the UC Experience. I also teach senior English here at Union City Junior Senior High School.
I'm Director of Innovation at Randolph Eastern School Corporation. Thanks for having us. Co-host of the UC Experience.
There we go. Lindsay?
Right. Yeah, I'm Lindsay Lovern. I'm co-host of the Forge Your Future podcast and an instructional specialist and grant coordinator at ECESC.
And Pat Haney, Executive Director of East Central Educational Service Center. And it is great to be here with the UC Experience team. Now, Mr. Jones, Ms. Wambo, I got to tell you, your UC Experience podcast inspired us to think big and to think about starting our own podcast. So you are, I don't know, what, 70, 80 episodes in? Like, let's start off with just a little bit of a history, recount for us the journey of the UC Experience podcast.
Yeah, I can jump in on that. So, almost 2 years ago, I want to say now, as I was taking on a different role in addition to teaching. It was called Community Partnership Development Coordinator. Part of that was to, funny story about that, and I will never forget this. I remember sitting inside, we were at a Randolph County United meeting, and I was telling Lindsay about my new title, and she looked at me and she said, sounds made up. The sweetest possible way you get. And I think one day I was probably running early in the morning, and I just decided, you know what, I'm going to start a podcast, because that'll be a way that we can weekly update the community on what it is that's going on at school. I can bring on teachers, I can bring on students, and the very first guest of that episode was Mr. Black. I don't know if it was a week or two later, episode 2, Mr. Black was on it again. And I remember asking him right there on the spot, so basically you're co-host of this thing, right? And he said, yeah, especially superintendents. I found that they are incredibly busy. These are people who are up at like 4 a.m. and they stay up until midnight. I don't think they sleep, right? So for him to say yes to that meant a lot to me, and we were off and running. And the UC Experience is really just about, again, promoting the awesome people and the great work that they are doing, teachers and students and community members. And we fast forward, and you're right, we're over 70 episodes now. We know that Mr. Black moved on to another school corporation, and my very first thought was Miss Wambo here, and shared that with Mr. Black, and he said, that's an amazing idea, great idea, go for it. And Miss Wambo has been phenomenal, and like I said, we've been off and running ever since.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun. So we've had a great time coming up with different guests and pulling people into the studio, and just watching it grow even this year and turn into a new version of what they started.
Yeah. Mr. Black would always look at me after episodes and say, like, this is so therapeutic. This is the highlight of my week. This is the greatest part of my week. And Miss Wambo, I know, has said the same thing. And I feel the same way as well.
We also try to be really real. And that's something that I appreciate about our podcast, is that while we want to show off all the good work that's happening at Union City, we also like to be real with people and tell them we're still growing. And
that really is innovation, right? So you're like moving forward in a positive direction, recognizing that there's still room to grow. Because if you didn't see the opportunity for growth, you wouldn't have a reason to innovate. So that's perfect.
I had an opportunity recently to visit Mr. Black, and he had Dr. Buddy Berry there, and he was telling a story about balloon animals and basically said, you have a vision, you have some goals, and basically what you do is just make sure that you're always twisting. You're always making constant movements toward that. And some things are going to be a hit, some things are going to be a miss, but you're always twisting and turning toward that.
Right. Because innovation to me is a cycle. And so sometimes cycling means moving forward, and sometimes it means going back in order to move forward. And I think sometimes people are scared of that going back piece, right? But we always hear that any great experiment takes like 3 years to find out if it's going to work or not. And 3 years is a long time to never be reflective and say, let's go back to where we were, or let's keep going forward. It's time to keep going forward. So yeah, like life is like that, right? We can't move forward all the time. Sometimes we have to step back and look at ourselves and then move forward.
I love it. I love it. So I wonder what's maybe something when you started the podcast, what is an outcome or an experience or an impact that you never could have imagined when you started this? And Justin, Shelley, Justin, you've been with podcasts a little longer. I'd love to hear from both of you. Just something, an unexpected outcome of doing this work of lifting up the students and the educators in your district and sharing the great things they're doing.
So it's fun to get that feedback. I think it's interesting. I love when people say, we love when you have the kids on there. So I think we haven't really looked at the stats, but that's the best feedback I get is the episodes when we have the kids. And when I asked a few weeks ago some of the kids to be on it, I was surprised at how quickly they said yes. Because a lot of times when we ask them to do public speaking and things like that, interestingly enough, this generation shies away from some of that, but they were really excited. Like there was no pause. Like, what time do I need to be there? They were ready to go. And as a matter of fact, I think we've had pretty positive responses whenever we ask people to be on the podcast. So that I think has surprised me. I wasn't sure if people would be excited about that, but they were. And I'm having fun when we come up with ideas and topics of trying to think a little bit outside of the box. And like, who have we not talked to? My favorite episode is when we had who I call the cafeteria guy, Bob, the Chartwells man. He's the guy in charge of our food. Like, he was my favorite guest to have on because it felt like a behind the scenes kind of thing. And so to me, that's the most fun that I never expected to is thinking, who do we need to highlight or what's going on that's getting forgotten? Yep. That's still important to the way our school system runs.
Yeah. And I'll echo that too. For me, it is those episodes where we have the kids on. Those are the episodes that I get the most feedback on. People will shoot me a text message or stop me and say, really love the episode. They just absolutely love hearing from the students. There have been a couple of episodes that, again, like I said, there are some moments I think I'll never forget. And they occur when there is a question to a guest. And it's almost like you can feel the entire temperature or the attitude or the environment of the room change in a good way. Yeah. And I remember one time talking to Mr. Jason Troutwine, students and teachers and that relationship. And it's just like his entire demeanor changed. And he was so passionate about that. And his explanation was so on point. And I knew going into it, he was going to articulate it really, really well. And basically from that, I took what he said and created our Workforce Wednesday graphic, basically modeled it off of what it is that he had to say when we make those connections between teachers and students in the community. And that's where learning and that's where growth and that's where really meaningful things happen right in the center of that. I'll never forget that. That meant a lot to me, especially because I was just starting that position. And to hear someone who I would consider an expert who's been doing that type of work for a really long time, lay it out like that. That was an excellent memory.
The other cool part about podcasts, as you were talking about that, is that we get to take these, it's just very intimate. And I feel like with the kids, with our guests, it allows us to shut out the whole rest of the world and really focus on having this conversation with people. And that's hard to do in we're in my classroom right now, but it's hard to do in this room. It's different when we go to a different building and we just shut the doors and we lower the lights and talking to the kids and talking to community members. A couple weeks ago, we had a veteran teacher and a brand new teacher, and we were asking them to give advice to each other. And like when I listened to that podcast later, I almost teared up a little because, as they were talking to each other, I just remembered the way that our veteran teacher kind of looked at her and you can hear it in his voice. And it was just so sweet. So I think that conversation would have never been able to happen otherwise like that. And so I think there are some really cool moments that happen in a podcast. Like who would have thought that, but I think it's real.
Awesome.
And I a lot of times after we record an episode, they will look at us and say, "Oh, that wasn't so bad." We hear that a lot. Like, well, I'm not sure what you thought coming into this, but yeah, you're right. It wasn't so bad. It was a good time.
Yeah. Well, when you can turn it into storytelling and a conversation, then I think that takes a lot of the pressure off. And I think we've seen that too with our Forge Your Future guests, is that same sentiment of like, oh, we're done. Oh, okay. That wasn't so bad.
Yeah. And pretty laid back. There's not a script. And how many times have I commented on that? Like, we're not paying people to come on here and say these things. Like, they're just naturally coming out. These really powerful comments that people are making, and they're coming from their heart, their soul. It's really meaningful stuff.
Yeah, I love it. So this is a holiday episode. And so we had a staff meeting today, and one of the things that we talked about is hope. And what, when you look ahead towards 2025, obviously it's important for all of us to take, as we move forward over the next couple of weeks, a little bit of time away to renew and recharge and relax. But as you both look forward to 2025, and Lindsay, for you too, let's maybe just share like what's bringing you hope as you look forward towards next year right now.
Some people and some pieces to the puzzle shifting around. I feel like he's getting settled in a little bit more, and he's starting to, we're going to get together and game things. I like where his mind is. I like where I think we're going as far as providing opportunities for students and continuing to personalize the educational experience. I really look forward to that. I'm looking forward to break because Mr. Adams and I are going to get to sit down together.
Mr. Joe.
Yeah.
You're supposed to have a break. He's not going to break.
No. Neither is Mr. Adams. I don't know if you're talking about Mr. Adams. Neither one of us are going to break. So we're going to get together and we're going to talk a little bit about, like I said, the game plan and the vision and where we're going.
And so coming back after Christmas in 2025 is always really fun. It's such a shift in their attitude. And I love the reason I love this senior year is I love being part of that planning for their post-secondary life. And that's become my passion. So it's been really fun to work with these guys, and now to see them when we come back, like they're kind of the hope for the future, right? Like, and they're so hopeful and they're so open and they're so terrified, and just getting to work with them and counsel them through that as they start to take those next steps is the reason I come back every year. Because I just love being part of that energy. And so I'm always looking forward to that. And I feel like because of some of the things that we've done, a lot of our kids have a really good plan. And there are still definitely some who are faltering, who definitely don't know what they want to do. But the ones who are pretty secure in what they want to do are making plans that I can look at them and say, absolutely, like that, you're making a good choice for yourself. And so I'm really proud when our kids make choices that we feel like, after spending so much time with them, we spend more time with them than some of their families do. I spend more time with them than I spend with my own family. So to be able to look at them and be like, yeah, I feel really good about your plan. It's nice. They feel good. I feel good. And there's a lot of hope in that graduation day. And so it's coming up fast. It'll be here before we know it.
Love it. Lindsay, how about for you?
Yeah, I'm excited for 2025. We have launched our Forge Your Future student experience here at Sunnyside, where this semester, we've had about 800 middle school students come through and
Great.
learn about the RIASEC and their specific strengths and interests with their personality and how that can translate to their future. And then we have close to 2,000 signed up for the spring of 2025, which is wonderful. And what's exciting to me is that while that continues to run, like it's a real thing that exists in the world now and is impacting lots of students, there's other things happening behind the scenes too that are going to be launching in 2025, such as our mobile experience, where we can bring that to schools that can't do the field trip thing. And then we've also had some requests from districts for us to come in and train their educators on career connected learning and the RIASEC framework, which makes me so hopeful, because that's exactly what we want to see is this language and idea spread, that it's beyond just a cool field trip. Like when students come and they say like, oh, this is the best field trip I've ever been on, that's a nice, like, feel good little moment. But we hope that the impact is bigger than like a cool one-day thing that they have. And so the fact that we're going to get the chance to go in and really start where we need to start with the educators with some of this work is really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. All right. So for me, I must say, I always like to say that when I started here at the Service Center a little over a year ago, that I inherited an incredible vision from the team here and from Dr. Katie Lash, my predecessor. And so blessed to inherit that incredible vision. And then also right now, we are going through some strategic planning. You're leaning into that a little bit ago, Mr. Jones. We're going through some strategic planning and really thinking deeply about the future. And there's a couple of words in our planning today. We were looking at a vision statement, and a couple of words that kind of jumped off the page to some members of our team it says to be the trusted catalyst for educational excellence and workforce readiness in East Central Indiana. And so just that thought, what gives me hope is to be able to partner with so many incredible school districts and to be able to partner with so many organizations that it seems like are pulling in the same direction to really help students think about, that plan post graduation, and to see the opportunities that lie ahead. Recently, we had all of our career coaches at the beginning of December, had all of our career coaches and some additional staff beginning to really deepen their understanding of the RIASEC framework, and also to build a network of professionals across our region that are really feeding into those relationships with students and having those conversations about the future that you were talking about, Ms. Wambo, that are game changers, and can make, we talk all the time about, for kids, just dream big, dream big and continue to grow your own self-awareness, to think about what kind of an impact that you can have using those strengths and interests and values. So we like to say your strengths and interests serve as a blueprint for forging futures of success and impact. And it's what gives me hope is not just seeing those words on paper, but seeing the things happening in great schools like Randolph Eastern, and the interaction when students are here the interactions between teachers and students when students are going through the Forge Your Future experience. Lots of exciting things happening in our region, lots to celebrate.
I like what you said about the dreaming big, and I think RIASEC gives the kids a nice framework to be able to dream big but dream real. And they can so that it's not a limit, but it is also keeping them within a set of expectations for themselves that they feel comfortable with. Absolutely.
Yeah. And for any listeners that may be lost in the alphabet soup of RIASEC, it's an acronym. Another name that you might have heard for it is the Holland Codes. It goes back to researcher John Holland in I believe the 1950s. So well researched. But there's six letters demonstrating 6 themes or areas of interest. I've got it on the wall beside me, which is perfect. Realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional. And most individuals have 2 or 3 of those themes that they claim for themselves that represent their interests. And often careers have kind of a mix of 2 or 3 of those that are
out with kindergartners in the classroom. So just talk to us about some of your work with RIASEC this year, and what you're observing in those interactions with students, and how you see it taking root kind of in the culture of your districts and inside of classrooms.
Yeah, I'll let Miss Wombo talk about the high school side of things. I think she can probably do that a little bit better than I can. But yeah, you're right. So down at the elementary, I've offered to come in and partner with teachers. And it's been such a fun experience. I'll never forget these moments that I'm standing side by side former students, and we're teaching students, and we're covering RIASEC. It's such a cool moment. And that's one thing that I think is really special and maybe even unique about Randolph Eastern School Corporation, is that so many of our former students come back. But yeah, I go in and do any number of, strategies depending on what it is that the teacher is wanting out of the experience. And it's really important to me that it's not something that's just manufactured or this one-off thing that it's just a novelty. I'm in and I'm out, and we never think about it again, or we never use it again, or anything like that. So it really just depends on the situation. But you're right. I'll go in and work with the little kids. And Lindsay, you just read off the 6 competencies are tied to RIASEC. And, I think about enterprising a lot. I think that there might be adults who struggle with enterprising. What the heck does that mean, right? So when I'm talking to 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds to say enterprising, how do they really understand? And it's been really fun. Really fun doing that, and I think really meaningful in doing that. And as I walk the hallways, I'm sure crossed paths with these young students 1,000 different times, but being in the classroom with them is a little bit different. And I guess connecting with them and creating relationships with them. So when I cross paths with them, they're acting it out with me, and it's really cool. It's something that's clearly staying with them. So I do think that it is making an impact. And it's really just about getting students to think about themselves and to think about, as you pointed out, their strengths and their interests. And that's perfectly in line with where I know we're going with a personalized experience here, and getting kids to, just so we're clear, no one is saying, hey, second grader, you're locked in and this is your career forever, right? But we're just exposing, we're really just following the Indiana Coaching Career Framework and the WBL Continuum. That's really what we're doing, is just career awareness, very broad, down at the lower levels, and then just chipping away at that and getting a bit more intentional. So we start broad, and at Northside, they do RIASEC related career exploration trips, 4 of those every school year. So yeah, we're just starting really broad down at the lower levels. And as a kid moves into their middle school career, into their high school career, then we're getting more focused and more intentional. One thing that I started was UC Explore, that Mrs. Black has taken over, and she's really running with it and doing great things with it. So by the time a kid is in 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, instead of a career trip where we're taking 60 kids, we're taking a minibus. And it's those students who are hyper interested in that career area. And that's been our strategy, and it's going really, really well.
Yeah.
And then Ms. Wombo, high school.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lindsay, you were going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say, I love hearing that, because it really speaks to how it's for all, right? Like that, the language can connect with any age level. You can make it real simple and broad for your younger ones, and then you can start having deeper conversations as they get older to truly start matching interests with greater specificity to career. So I think it's great.
And I do want to say this as well, that I will go in and work with teachers and co-teach with them, but they're also doing this on their own. And you go into any number of classrooms and students will have their RIASEC letters right there on their desk. They can talk to you about these things. At Northside, which is our elementary, they have Future Fridays. So teachers are dedicating time to implement RIASEC, and, they can make some natural connections with Leader and Me and employability skills standards. And the two principals, Mr. Cash and Miss Guard, they are doing a great work with RIASEC and having Future Friday recordings with students and talking to them and posting that on their weekly emails, for example. So it's really a team effort. It is by far past anything that I am just doing. It's really the entire corporation has bought in and is making use of this. Miss Wombo can talk about the high school. She's at the high school and she could share a little bit about that.
Oh, I think, high school is a different beast. So one thing I'm pretty proud of, though, is that most of our kids, when I meet with them individually, we have a conferencing sheet. And the first question is, what is your RIASEC code? And they'll either know it right off the top of their head, or they will be like, hold on, let me look it up. But they know what they have it somewhere. So they're trying to look it up. So it's nice that we've at least established that common language and we can throw that phrase around pretty easily. I think that our Workforce Wednesday, of course, is tapping into RIASEC a bit. But I think a lot of the growth is going to come from the elementary and then allow us to continue to build. So, I think the language is right where it needs to be. And the fact that the kids are starting to use it more fluently. And that's really step one, since this age group kind of just got thrown into it, a couple of years ago. And then while, it's more of a mystery, like we're doing a lot of things around here that is like UC Explore and the Workforce Wednesdays, we're feeding into the RIASEC without them knowing it. It's like putting broccoli in their milkshakes. But then, but they do have the language and they are using that. And I think it's helping them to focus on those career choices that they're making.
Love it.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, we're getting close to our time here. Should we do a quick lightning round of what are your RIASEC codes?
Ooh,
Really?
ICE. Mine's ICE.
Ice, baby. That's awesome.
It's pretty easy.
Okay, so
I have an A in there somewhere too.
Yeah.
So for our less RIASEC literate friends, ICE would be investigative, conventional, and enterprising.
I think yes.
Okay.
Yeah, everyone. I also have an S. I'm a little bit of all the right. I'm very well rounded. It's hard for me to focus, but on my desk, I have it on my desk, so I look at it every day, so I could answer your question very quickly.
Perfect.
Yes.
I am social, investigative, artistic.
Same. Those are also my codes. The two artistics wearing our Santa hats today.
Yeah.
No surprise.
And I am social, enterprising, and artistic.
I feel like I should be limited to 3, right?
So for anyone listening that may want to learn more, it's RIASEC's out there with a Google search. We're also happy to share here at Sunnyside. We've got our 6 classrooms, each representing one of the letters. So we welcome visitors anytime. We're exploring lots of different things with educator focused workshops, and then as well we have our student field trips. So it's also becoming a common language over here, and we're living it every day. We love it.
Yeah. And sorry.
Oh.
I was gonna say a shout out to you guys. Our school kids came over and got a lot of positive feedback from kids and teachers. So good job.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it was fun. I think that was one of the first times we had students that already were aware of RIASEC and knew some of their codes. So it was a different opportunity for them to, confirm what they had already known before, or maybe change their thinking a little bit on some of their codes. So that was neat to have a group that wasn't just starting from square one.
Well, that's good to hear. See, I told you, our kids know their stuff.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we always do is that we always ask for guests on the Forge Your Future podcast for a recommendation. to make to the listeners? It could be a professional recommendation. It could be a personal, just enjoyment recommendation outside of school. And so, for example, one of our previous guests, Dr. Phil Hauer, recommended the book Super Communicators, which I'm working through right now. So I wonder, for anyone, does anyone have a recommendation that you would make to the listeners, something that you encourage them to check out?
I do. And it's funny that you mentioned Dr. Phil Hauer, because my first thought was, I think he mentioned this. I'm sure he mentioned this on his episode with you guys. Get up early and listen to podcasts, listen to audiobooks. I'm a huge fan of Libby. So yeah, get up early, 4:30, and listen to those on, 1x, or not 1x, 1.8 or 2x. 1.8x speed is that sweet spot for me, and we can get through things and
I love
take away. And I'm always pulling out my phone and writing emails to myself, which are notes to myself on the points that I'm getting from the audiobooks that I'm listening to.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my only recommendation is to take care of yourself. So this is a crazy time of year. I don't have to explain that. Like, this is a crazy time of year, and whatever your definition of crazy is, and all of us have a different definition. So some weird thing stuck out to me the other day. I don't even know where I saw it, but it got my attention, and it reminded us that it's okay to take a break. And so I've been reminding myself of that. So I would recommend to all of your listeners that no matter what time of year that you hear this podcast, it is okay to stop. It is okay to stop, friend. It is okay to take a break. It is okay to go to bed an hour earlier like I did last night. That was okay. It was okay to do those things. So I hereby give all of your listeners permission to take a break.
Yes, our listeners, in fact, right?
Yes.
Everybody. So I have a book recommendation that actually came from Paula, who's on our staff. So maybe a month ago at a meeting, she recommended Hidden Potential by Adam Grant, and a great book for anyone, but especially for an educator. He is a social researcher who studied all kinds of people who have had different types of success in their life that maybe wasn't evident from a young age, and just followed their stories, and then did additional research on, what does it mean to have potential, and how can we draw that out of people and help everybody be their best selves. Excellent read. I listened to the audiobook that he actually, the author, narrated. Very, very, very good. And then my festive recommendation for those near Union City is to go see the lights at the park. Do you know which number it is? We should shout that out.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm going with my family tomorrow, and it's always just a great little, it's very impressive. The lights are always great, and it's just like a nice little family tradition too. So if you're within driving distance, go see it.
Yeah, and really, if you're interested in it, he is a huge proponent of the lights. He's put up many of them himself, as he explains on the podcast. So it might be fun to hear him talk about a little behind the scenes action at Harder Park.
Well, and I want to say, for people who are tuning in because of the Forge the Future podcast, make sure you go over and check out the UC Experience podcast. Always worth your time. And got a new book. It's been around, it's been out there, but a great one to go back to, and just thinking about just culture and relationships, and what does it really mean for you to be courageous. And so finding those ways for you to be courageous and to share your gifts is something that I think that we all could be reminded of from time to time.
Yeah, great suggestion. I always find a lot of inspiration in all of her work.
Absolutely. All right. Well,
anything special from the UC experience that we need to do at the end to wrap up?
I just want to say here real quick, the last 2 years of my life, I've taken several trips to the service center, and even before that, doing some work with the Service Center through Teacher Share. I absolutely adore the Service Center. It's, like you said just a second ago, an honor to be doing a podcast with great people, amazing people who are doing work that is in line. We're all in sync here in what it is that we're doing. And this absolutely made my day. This made my week. This made my semester.
Merry Christmas.
Yes. All right. Well, Merry Christmas to both of you and everyone in Union City, and everybody take time to celebrate, get out and see the lights and enjoy time with family and loved ones.
And take care of yourselves.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Thanks,
everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Forge Your Future podcast. We hope that this glimpse into the bright future of East Central Indiana inspires you and brings you hope.
We have the privilege to work with these future makers every day and want to share their stories throughout Indiana and beyond.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, please share it with your circle and let's keep the conversation going.
You can connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and on our website.
Until next time, remember that your strengths and interests are a blueprint to your future of success and impact.